Hey folks, if you're looking for something a bit different, you're in luck, since I recently got to dive into a peculiar point-and-click puzzle game lodged within a piece of interactive fiction. Specifically, Patrones Escondites Delete After Reading, courtesy of a review key. That said, was this a worthwhile read or due for an early deletion? I'm your host Arlian, let's find out together. In a long train of bad days, today marks the worst day yet. Homework, humiliation, an assortment of vegetables you don't want to eat, and things just seem destined to stay the same. That is, until you notice the appearance of a strange device and an equally mysterious message. Destiny isn't just some random occurrence, but a weirdly malevolent entity that seems specifically keen on harassing you and others, essentially for fun. And yet, an organization exists to push back against this cruel fate, one which now seeks to see if you're worthy to be one of them and able to help them on their latest task. If this all sounds a little bit ridiculous, you'd be right. Delete After Reading's narrative definitely feels like it's geared towards a somewhat younger audience, whether it's the self-insert protagonist to the overall presentation of its story beats. That said, I still found myself enjoying it all the same. It does a surprisingly good job of playing with the medium of an interactive story, such as hearing a TV flicker on just as you read that very same event occurring. This is made more interesting because it isn't simply a sound effect, but a signal that something on the page you're reading has changed, and that you ought to go and search for the source, like that television. Details like this did a great job of keeping me intrigued by the experience and waiting to see what else it had in store. And there was something altogether charming about transitioning back and forth through the pages in order to explore an area, though I'll admit that the scrolling speed was a bit on the slow side. That said, if you're looking for more depth and intrigue in your stories, Delete After Reading may fall a bit flat, especially once it reaches the somewhat abrupt ending, but that ultimately didn't bother me that much. Partly because it proved itself to be a surprisingly competent puzzle game. Like I said in the intro, there are some puzzle game elements to be found, the likes of which are well beyond the minor point-and-click elements that you'll be using to navigate the story and interact with the environment. That's not to say those elements aren't well done, such as being able to explore the pictures which appear alongside the pages in order to plunge deeper into the puzzles, but the real highlights were the logic behind all of these that existed. While the overall length of Delete After Reading is more towards the short side of things, there were some conundrums in there that actually required me to make notes rather than simply blitz through the whole thing. I have a journal with several pages of things jotted down. Also, the final puzzle segment is fairly charming insofar as the diverse and novel obstacles it provides, though there are some frustrating elements to be found there, I don't want to spoil them. But that is by and large how it plays, so let's move on to the visuals, and frankly, as much as it's a relatively cartoonish presentation, again, it's charming and it fits well with the content. I was also surprised by the overall quality of the sound design. You frequently have accompaniments to what's occurring that are fitting without being overbearing, and there's some decent music to boot. So overall, I was pleasantly surprised by how much I liked this. While there were a few moments where I started to bounce off it due to how childish the narrative felt, the puzzles themselves drew me back in repeatedly. Really, the only mechanical complaint I have about the game is that you can't save in the middle of a chapter. So if you do happen to quit out for some reason, you will be starting from scratch. But given its chapter select is fairly forgiving and the chapter themselves aren't overly lengthy, it's not a major issue. Also, while I didn't overly need the hint system, it is nice that one exists all the same in case you get snagged at one of the odder puzzles. Such as the security password puzzle. I'll admit, I just brute forced that one. I couldn't actually figure things out from the hints, but yeah, overall, I can safely recommend playing this one, so it gets to proudly be called a hit. Anywho, thanks for tuning in. If you have something to say, leave a comment, and if you enjoy my efforts to create new indie reviews and interviews, hit the subscribe button and the bell. For a link to my Discord, the Crit Hit Cauldron, check the description. There's also a link to my Patreon if you want to see reviews early, or just want to support the channel, and to my merch house for neat swag like Crit Hit coffee mugs and even mouse pads. That said, I'll catch you in the next episode of Crit Hit. Take care till then, folks.